Hello and happy new year everyone. It is time to do the monthly wrap up. We're gonna do it pretty rapid fire. If you can't tell by my voice, I am very sick right now. Talking is painful, but the show must go on. So I also just read a lot in December, and talking about all of them in detail is just way too much. So I will at least mention everything that I read, but not everything is going to get a full review. So let's get right into it with the stats. So in December, I read a total of 22 books, DNF'd 1, which was a grand total of 7,340 pages and 75.5 audiobook hours. I did a crazy amount of reading in December. I don't know what happened. October was my best reading month ever, like literally in my entire life from when I started tracking my reading at least. And in December I read more than 1,000 more pages than I did in October, so I don't know what happened, but I had a great month. The book that I DNF'd was Confounding by Alexis. It's the sequel to Mortal Follies. I did not enjoy Mortal Follies, so I'm not really sure why I thought that I would like the sequel, but I gave it a try and I did not like it, so I DNF'd it very quickly. And then for the books that I finished, I started off the month with I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. I gave it a 3.5 star. It was just okay. I didn't love it, but it wasn't that great either. It wasn't very memorable for me. The story was fine, but kind of bland. It was very one note and kind of fell flat for me. So not a bad read, just not as good as it could have been. But it was fun, at least. I'll give it that. And then I read Delicates and Lights, the second and third book in the Sheets trilogy. These were cute. I liked them. I gave book 2 a 3.5 and book 3 a 3 star. I liked the stories. I wasn't a big fan of the characters though. I found them to be kind of boring, but the stories were fun and I love the art style quite a bit as well. And then I read An Elderly Lady Must Not Be Crossed, I think, by Helene Tursten. This was great. I gave it a 4 star. It was very, very fun. The first book was definitely better, but the second book was also fantastic. I loved the setting and the characters. The plot was really fun. I loved the stories that she had to tell. And yeah, it was overall a fantastic read. Very much enjoyed it. I do hope that this author will one day write more in this series because they are so much fun. And then I read The Nightmare Before Kissmas by Sara Raasch, and I absolutely adored this one. It was so good. I gave it a 4.5 star. It was unexpected as well. I was going into it just looking for like a really cute romance, which I definitely got, but there was a lot more to it than that. There was lots of interesting family dynamics, great friendships, really interesting plot, a whole mutiny towards the capitalism of Christmas. It was excellent for that, but this romance is what really stood out for me. It was so freaking cute. It had me squealing and giggling. I absolutely adored it. I love these characters so much. I really enjoyed this book and I can't wait to see where the series goes. And then I finally got to Celestial Monsters by Aiden Thomas, the sequel to the Sunbearer Trials. So good. Oh my god, this was so good. 4.5 stars. Book 1 was better, but I love like a magical trial sort of thing. So book 1 was like perfectly suited for me. Book 2 was a great adventure, very high stakes. Character building and relationships were super fun. I loved how fast paced it was. Everything was just so much fun. I loved it so much, and I'm so happy that I finally read this book. I can't wait to see what else this author writes going forward. And then I read The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling. This was also fantastic. 4.5 stars for this one as well. This is definitely my favorite book in this series so far. It was so much fun. I loved the plot twist in there. I don't know how much is in the synopsis, so I don't want to like say what happened in it, but I really enjoyed the plot of this one. I thought it was so much fun, and that romance, oh my god. I want me a big burly Welsh mountain man. This book was excellent, and the romance was just like, it was so steamy. I loved the yearning, like, oh man, it was so good. Not quite a 5 star, but super close to it. And then I read Dark Star Burning, Ash Falls White. I gave it a 3 star. It was just okay. I felt kind of the same as I did with the first book. It was just kind of okay. I like the world, the setting, and the magic, but the relationships, the characters, and the dialogue, super cringy. Didn't like any of that. Mistlefoe by Kimberly Lemming. It was a quick little novella. It was more steam than plot, which was not really my jam. I was looking for the plot and did not get much of one. So I gave that one a 3-star. The Relentless Moon by Mary Robinette Kowal. Is it the 3rd or 4th book in the Lady Astronaut series? Whatever it is, I read it. I loved it. It was a 4.5 star and such a good read. It follows a different main character than the first books did, and I loved it. I loved reading from her perspective. I loved her character, and everything that happened in this book was just like so interesting. I loved the cast of characters that we got in this one as well. Overall, this was a very solid addition to this series, and I can't wait to find out what happens in the next ones. There was some pretty crazy things that happened in this book towards the end, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where that goes in future books. The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black. Not gonna lie, don't really know what happened in this book. I gave it a 3-star. I fully forgot the entire plot of book 1, and honestly, like the entirety of the original trilogy. I kind of forget everything that happened in it, so this book was mostly just vibes. I didn't really want to read this book a whole lot, I'm not gonna lie, but because it was the last book in the series and the last book in that entire world as a whole, it would bother me if I didn't, so I just picked it up. It was a very quick read. I liked the characters, but plot-wise, really have no clue, and I gave it a 3-star. Odd Spirits by ST Gibson. This one got a 4-star. It's a prequel novella to Evocation. For some reason, I thought this was Reese and David's story from like when they were dating before the start of Evocation, but it is not. It's a story from like when Reese and Moira first got married. So unexpected, but still very much enjoyed this one, and I gave it 4 stars. We Could Be So Good by Sebastian got a 4-star. I loved this one. The romance was so good, and I loved the plot as well. There was a lot more to this one than just like a cute romance. There was lots of like emotional stuff in there, lots of complicated family stuff. For some reason, I didn't really want to read this book. I don't know why, even though I loved the other book in the series that I read. I adored that book, but I had no interest in this book for some reason. But I picked it up on a whim and ended up adoring it. So I don't know why I doubted Sebastian, but I'm glad that I picked it up. It was so good. I love the characters so much. Darn It All by Evie Mitchell. I did not expect to find this book. This one was put off like time and time again, and there was like no updates for it for the longest time. So I had given up looking for it for a while, but I was scrolling through Everend and just saw it there, and I was like, oh my god, it was finally released. So I picked it up and I read it in a day. It was a like competition TV show, romance sort of thing, best friends to lovers. This was a really fun one that I very much enjoyed, and it got a 4-star. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but it was very much a good read, and this series as a whole was fantastic as well. Unfortunately, a not great read was A Holly Jolly Diwali by Sonya Lalli. This one is a contemporary romance, which was so cringy and kind of awful. I loved the setting, and that's pretty much it for what I liked about it, to be honest. I found the romance and the sexual tension felt like reading a 14-year-old's diary. It was not good. I gave it a 2.5 star. I probably should have DNF'd it, but it was really short and I was bored, so I kept reading it, and yeah, it wasn't a very good one, sadly. And then I picked up Otherworldly by F.T. Lukens. At long last, I've been dying to read this, but I wanted to wait until winter, and I'm very glad that I did. I read this on Christmas Day, and it was a fantastic, like, wintry read. I loved the plot and the magic system. The whole, like, world building was fantastic. I loved the setting so much. The characters kind of fell flat. I didn't find that they were that well fleshed out, but it was still a great read. I love this author so much, and I gave it a 4-star. And then on a whim, I picked up Blackwater Sister. It had been on my TBR for about 3 years, and I saw that it was available as the audiobook from my library, so I picked it up, and it was okay. I did like it, but it wasn't that interesting. I had a hard time staying invested in the story. I really enjoyed the plot and the magic, but again, with the characters, I just didn't really have any interest in them and their stories. But it wasn't a bad book, it just wasn't that interesting to me personally. It did remind me a lot of an adult version of She Is a Haunting. I definitely liked it more than that book, but it still wasn't like the best book for me, but again, not a bad one. And I gave that one a 3.5 star. And then I read Snow Place Like Home and Season Greetings by Julie Murphy and Sarah Simone. I had no idea that A Merry Little Meet Cute had sequels, but apparently there are 4 of them. So I'm reading them and I'm very happy about it. I love that book, and the sequels so far have been very fun. I gave Snow Place Like LA a 3.5 star, and Season Greetings got a 3 star. Honestly, Season Greetings was more like a 2 star, but I gave it a 3 because there were abundance of Twilight references in it, and that just brought me so much joy. Especially because I was reading that book the day after I did an entire Twilight marathon with my friend, so it was just perfect timing and made me laugh so hard, so I got a little bit of a higher rating for that reason, but plot and character wise it was more like a 2. Second from last, I read I Am the Dark That Answers When You Call by Jameson Shea. It's a sequel to I Feed Her to the Beast and the Beast Is Me, which was one of my favorite books that I read I think last year. The sequel was not as good, but was still phenomenal. Like, I love these books so much. They're so good. They're so interesting. They're bloody and gruesome and grotesque. These books blew me away. I have not stopped thinking about book 1 since I read it. And yeah, book 2 wasn't as captivating, but it was still excellent, and I definitely recommend these books, and I gave book 2 a 4-star. And then finally, the last book for 2024 was The Ending Fire by Sara. This was so good. Oh my god, I love this series. This is hands down one of the best fantasy series that I've read in a very long time. The plot, the characters, the pacing, the action, everything was so good. The world building, oh my god, the world is so cool. I love everything about the series except for Anur. I hate her as a character, she's horrible. But aside from her, everything else is fantastic. This was so close to getting a 5-star, but my dislike for Anur had to bring it down just a tiny little bit, so I gave it a 4.5 star. It was just phenomenal. If you have not read this series, you need to do so. It was just so good. I want to buy the most beautiful copies of this series and just stare at them forever. But yeah, that is a rapid fire of all the books that I read in December. A lot of great reads, a lot of just okay reads. Luckily, not too many bad reads, so that's always nice. But let me know how your reading month went. If you've read any of these books, please let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on them. Otherwise, let me know what the best or worst thing that you read last month was. I would also love to know that. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a fantastic New Year's, and I will see y'all shortly. Bye.